Hello and happy Friday to all out there. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast presented by our friends over at Ace Hardware Home Services. You can get started on your next project by visiting acehardarehomeservices.com, bringing those trusted pros right to your front door. Renee, Halloween, not going to lie, probably should have taken the Z-Biotics a little bit last night before drinking responsibly. No, I'm just tired. Just Halloween beat me down. It's exhausting. You know, you log a lot of walking, a lot of pulling a cart, a lot of cleaning up, late bedtimes. It was kind of a mess. But it was
Yeah,
fun.
it was nice because it was beautiful outside.
A little too warm.
It was a little too warm,
If
actually.
I can nitpick, I could have gone for like 10 degrees cooler.
Yeah, shorts and a t-shirt weather on Halloween was a little bit
It was
rough,
weird.
very unexpected. It was very nice, but I do feel like maybe it's time to start considering the day after Halloween being a day off. Just maybe.
I saw my cousin at school drop off today who was dropping off her kid, and she was like, today shouldn't be a school. I was like, counterpoint, I don't want to deal with these kids today, so keep them in school.
They can go. Day off for the adults, not the kids.
Yeah. You want
in my nephew's district, they have a half day today. Like they need the full day. Let them go.
Yeah.
And then the adults need the day off. It needs to be a corporate holiday, not a children's holiday.
Absolutely.
Because let's be honest, parents have to do so much to manage the kids, get the costumes together. You're doing all the, like you said, you're the one pulling the cart. You're the one walking. They're sitting there, passenger princess.
Yeah, these kids got it too good.
Passenger Elsa.
Yeah, so, it was a great time though.
Yeah, and it's just we need a day. And then today's gross out too, which doesn't help. It's like rain.
Well, it's rained for the first time in 36 days, so I guess I can't complain about that. But yeah, we got a lot to get into today. So the layout for today, we got some the bullpen grades to finish out here to wrap up a nice little ribbon around that. We have some World Series stuff. The offseason has officially started. And a lot more to get into, including Todd Zalecky laid out, the next 4 months basically, and what the dates are of the Phillies offseason and what to pay attention to. But let's get it started with two things I just saw this morning here, Renee. And the first one is lovely. It's lovely to hear, and it's courtesy of Scott Lauber from the Philadelphia Inquirer. And here is the quote. Middleton indicated that he will consider pushing the payroll beyond even the third threshold of $281 million next year if the opportunity arises to add another impact player. Like hearing that. We have plenty of time to get into the full free agent list. But there's clearly one impact player that's above all others this offseason. His name is Juan. And I do wonder like how far they'll go.
I know. Well, as we talk about
I don't think it's realistic, but it's like, I like hearing that.
Anything's possible, Jamie. Anything's possible. Day 2 of the Juan Soto Sweepstakes, of the official offseason sweepstakes, and I'm excited. Listen, the fact that we had heard already from Dave Dombrowski they weren't going to be they don't need a superstar. And then to counter argue that point, you hear they're going to be aggressive. They are going to be aggressive in pursuing him. We already heard, of course, from Juan Soto. He doesn't have any doors closed or anything. He's available for 30 teams. We are one of those 30 teams. That is exciting. And then now as these things are getting leaked, as Bob Nightingale sharing stuff, excited to strongly pursue him. I like it. There's hope.
It's something.
This is, as we talked about, the number of achievements that Juan Soto has, from World Series to being one of the few players at under the age of 25 in the last 30 years.
Insane.
A higher F-WAR than him. Mike Trout, Alex Rodriguez, Albert Pujols,
heard of them,
and Juan Soto with his 36.3 F-WAR. One of the best under 25 guys that we've seen in the last 30 years, and he's available. Now, the question, of course, is with the incredibly high deferred contract that Shohei Ohtani set last year, it made everybody realize the ceiling is that much higher. So what was originally like a $400 million discussion with Scott Boras then jumped to 500 and quickly jumped to 600 and is now jumping to, will this be the second highest, contract we're seeing outside of Shohei Ohtani? This is a fact though. Phillies are going for it. I don't think this is fluff. I think this is legitimate. And I feel like because of the shortcomings of this postseason, they've got to be aggressive because Dave, Rob, everybody's under a microscope, and you can't allow Juan Soto, especially with the Mets in the conversation, Jamie.
Yeah, Steve Cohen's blank check book really still makes me nervous, but I think hearing a quote like this right as the offseason opens certainly gives you a little hope for optimism. And look, you start piecing together the tea leaves of people that are really connected. And I know our own Jim Salisbury kind of said, like, yeah, they'll call and inquire, but like I don't think he's leaving New York, which is still my basic sentiment. But when his email the other day did talk about needing a change, and he did mention Brandon Marsh and Alec Bohm as potential trade candidates, whether other teams are calling about them or they're calling to see what their value is. You got to give something to get something. And the reality is, if they were to bring in Soto, no matter how creative they got with the structure of it, they would still probably need to shed some money. So if you could lose, Bohm's arbitration is probably going to be around 9.5 or 10 million. If you were to trade him and kind of free up that money that you can just apply towards Soto, maybe it becomes more palatable that way. You're not going to move your Treys and Castellanos's and guys like that. So Bohm maybe is a way to free up $10 million more if you were to move him, but then you got to have a third base place and plan there. So it's just the start of it all. It's fun to dream and hope, and let's hope they get real creative and spend the big bucks again.
Yeah, and this is the reality. Like we had mentioned before, I know Steven Garrison's asking in the chat, if you do trade someone like Alec Bohm who's playing third, for the Phillies, we've also talked about if you bring in someone like a Juan Soto to play in the outfield and you have to move an Alec Bohm, your trade for Alec Bohm is not a 1-for-1 to move him. You're possibly moving in there are some third basemen available. There are some prospects an Aiden Miller that the Phillies.
Yeah, Aiden Miller, come on down just to get up here. Let's go, kid.
If it means that your third base,
screw it.
Whoever your third base, let's be honest. If your third baseman has to be a little bit less Alec Bohm, a little bit in terms of talent, and you get a Juan Soto, are you taking that deal? Are you even taking a risk on an Aiden Miller at third base, even to expedite his process to the majors, if it means Juan Soto's out there, and you can maybe bring in a cheaper? We've talked about the other names on around the league, the Bregmans, and even like a Eugenio Suarez, different guys whose names have popped up. Are you taking a chance on one of those guys to be able to lock in a Juan Soto? I'd be open to it. I do see the other thing, Jamie, I want to keep in mind is as other teams are making moves, we just saw the Angels and Braves have a deal with Jorge Soler and Griffin Canning. Like as I'm watching,
Braves don't waste any time, do they? Jeez.
They do not. But that also makes me wonder, just like we're talking about the Phillies shedding some contracts and moving on from some guys. You want to make sure there's no other sleepers out there, since everybody's up for grabs that are making some moves to try to move up, free up some money. And I've already been watching the Braves because after Ozzie Albies was bringing Juan Soto cupcakes, of course he was involved in the World Series, coverage and excitement and yada yada yada. That had me kind of like, wait a minute, don't sleep on the Braves ever, because they're always lurking to make a move. And when I was watching him and Juan Soto with the birthday cupcake, I don't know about you, Jamie, I got a little nervous. I didn't really like that. And I thought, Bryce, Trey, go give him some cupcakes.
Yeah. Shout out to a couple of the Golden Girls. I saw we had Blanche Devereaux in here the other day, and it looks like we have Rose Nyland in here today. And Rose is saying, it would be great if we weren't paying this spot starter $18 million a year. Boy, oh boy, are you right, Rose? Because that $18 million from Taijuan Walker or 17.5, whatever it is, I would love to just shed that money and give it to Mr. Soto. That is unfortunate.
Yeah, Rose, thank you.
Golden Girls, no ball.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again because you are.
I love Golden Girls.
I love Golden Girls. There's a Golden Girls trivia.
It's funny
for the holidays, just in time for the holidays.
A Golden Girls trivia game.
Yes, just in time for holiday get-togethers. You could, and I think I'm gonna get it. But
yeah, Golden Girls are legit funny. Yeah, it's a funny show.
Hilarious. And hopefully Well, the reality is Rose is correct. We have money that is
Yeah.
right now being wasted.
That's sunk money. God.
Yeah, this is money that you're thinking about that could be part of the funds that are going towards Juan Soto.
Yeah.
Not to mention there are some other names, Jamie, that have come up in addition to Juan Soto that also have me equally as excited because, as we've talked about, needing to be aggressive, needing to make changes. We've heard the Phillies are looking to make those changes, and aside from wanting to pursue Juan Soto, we've also heard in general that the Phillies are interested in a roster shakeup, interested in some lineup moves, and moving on from some guys that maybe will catch people by surprise. So not only are we wasting money on Taiwan Walker that could be going to Juan Soto, that could be going to another bullpen arm, pitching got a starting pitcher, anybody that money could be going to that actually can help the Phillies.
Yeah. Mopar says the hair on the back of my head stands up when I think of trading Alec Bohm. Was last year just an anomaly? He had 70 RBIs at the All-Star break and then had a brain fart. I don't know. I think, Renee, I think you feel like I do about Alec Bohm in that you're not really in a rush to trade him, but there's so many landlocked pieces on this roster that if you were to change, you got to give something to get something. And Alec Bohm is probably one of your more attractive pieces, which is a compliment to him. So I'm not like rushing to do it, but I do think he brings you some decent return.
I'm glad you shared that because it is really good to clarify. This is not in any means, and I know you and I have talked about this many times, us saying we don't want Alec Bohm here anymore. The
No,
reality
he's
is
a good player.
yeah, I like him, and I think that he took a major stride. We can all agree this past season. Obviously, it wasn't the entire season. Did he hit a rut like everybody else? Yes,
Oh
but to
boy, oh
be
boy.
an all-star and all the RBIs and doubles that he led the league in, he is someone you'd love to keep. But the truth is, with the contracts that the Phillies have, as we talk about a Taiwan Walker, you look at Nick, Trey, Bryce, Kyle. You don't have a lot of options of players you can move, and in order to get something, you got to give something up. You're not going to be able to move a Johan Rojas and Spencer Turnbull and some of these smaller contracts to get anywhere close to enough money to get a big return. Return on investment's real, and Alec Bohm's stock has increased. That's why him, Brandon Marsh, even a Bryson stock. I don't want to have to move on from any of them, but I would love to be able to have the Phillies acquire a better piece, positional player wise, and bullpen arms that can help them in the postseason.
Yeah, we'll get to a bullpen arm. Marsh Mopar also says is a dime a dozen. I kind of completely agree with you there, Mopar. I mean, he has value in this league. But if you want to move on from Brandon Marsh, go right ahead. I'm okay at this point. All right, so this name was a name at the trade deadline that got moved to a contender, is now a free agent, and will probably, I haven't really deep dove the bullpen arms hitting the free agent market, but you talk about something different, a little change up, Renee. Well, Jim Bowden, who was a longtime MLB executive, now works for The Athletic. He's more into the prediction game than like the scoop game, if that makes sense. But I always assume his predictions and the air quotes there for the podcast listeners are based in some form of knowledge. I don't think he's just throwing darts here. I assume he talks to people all around the league and makes some predictions. And his prediction that just came out, I saw this courtesy of our friends over at The Good Fight, and it was because I hadn't read the story yet, so I just have the quote. Lefty Tanner Scott signs a 4-year, $60 million deal with the Phillies, who say goodbye to high leverage relievers Jeff Hoffman and Carlos Estevez in free agency. Tanner Scott, 4 years, $60 million is Jim Bowden's prediction here. Let us know in the chat how you feel about that. Oh, Blanche Devereaux's here too. We got Rose and Blanche in here.
I didn't know if you saw Blanche, but I saw Blanche come stepping in.
I saw Blanche early, yeah, and then Rose hopped in. So love my Golden Girls. But Tanner Scott, the lefty, one of the best free agent bullpen arms on the market. I love Jeff Hoffman, and we're going to get into him after we take a break and do our grades. Jeff Hoffman's a lot cheaper than Tanner Scott, but Tanner Scott would be that true, again, air quotes, closer.
I think to your point, there's got to be some validity to this. This is not just made up out of thin air. There's a reason why Baden even brought this up. And so that makes me extremely excited. As we know, the Phillies have their 3 free agents in Carlos Estevez, Jeff Hoffman, as well as Spencer Turnbull. And the reality is, as Dave Dombrowski mentioned in the post end of season presser, they're not going to be able to definitely for Hoffman and Estevez, they're not going to be able to bring them both back. So as I read through the piece and it was saying, for lefty Tanner Scott, that 4-year, $60 million deal with the Phillies wouldn't be enough if they would be able to move on from Hoffman and Estevez. As we had talked about at the trade deadline, Tanner Scott, one of the best relievers in baseball, an all-star with the Marlins, was great with the Padres. You saw him with 4 to 3rd postseason innings with the Padres this year. Gave up just 2 hits, 1 walk, no runs, struck out 2, and was great in the regular season, which is why we wanted him.
He's a
And
stud.
in his time with both clubs, 72 innings that he pitched a 1.75 ERA with 22 saves and 84 strikeouts. And so for the Phillies, it's not a matter, much like we said with Bohm, Hoffman and Estevez, great regular season pieces. They were fine, but they did not do well in the postseason. And you did see Tanner Scott, who was one of the best relievers in the regular season, also be one of the best relievers in the postseason. And if you can move on from them and upgrade in the sense of a guy is going to be able to provide you more,
Yeah, is
why
one
not?
Tanner Scott better than 2 Hoffman and Estevez?
Well, you were
Is
definitely going to lose one of them already. So I wonder if this
Yeah, I'd
is.
be shocked if Hoffman left. I feel like that's the guy they're going to hold on to.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's for both versus like you have to when you move on
No,
from
they're
one.
not bringing back both. Dombrowski already
No,
said
that's
that.
what I mean. Like you're
I
able
was
to
just meaning like this
one
postseason,
and
we saw the both of them. Does it improve with one Tanner Scott over what we saw from the both of them this postseason? We'll find out, but we're going to talk about some of those bullpen grades here coming up next. But Renee, we got some business to take care of and to tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. And that would be my friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. TrueMark, they're like 2 miles down the road from me. They're headquartered right here in Fort Washington. They have 24 area locations all around the Delaware Valley. So there's probably a location near you. And if you're unfamiliar with credit unions, it's always good to be a part of a credit union because they're a little more flexible than some of those, stiff banks, and they're rooted right here. So they hire from right here. They care about our area. So stop into TrueMark, and whether you're traveling on the road for a Birds game, a Phillies game, you're going down to spring training next year, the TrueMark Financial mobile app allows account access anytime, anywhere. You can check your balances, view transactions, make transfers, pay bills, all of that and more right from the convenience of your mobile phone. Plus, you get the mobile wallet. And if you're planning on buying a new house, like, my sister and some other people I know are always in the house market, TrueMark's financial mortgage specialist can help offer guidance on loan options and terms. They'll help you assess your finances and credit score to determining your borrowing capacity, save for a down payment, and budget for those closing costs that are just, ugh. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit truemark.com/PHLY.
Fantastic. All right, let me tell you about our friends over at Rite Aid, which is the place to go this time of year to stay healthy. We were just discussing the Halloween long days. This is the time of year you're outside a little bit more. It's some long days, some long nights. You also want to make sure you're feeling good. I actually woke up with a little bit of a tickle in my own throat. And I too need to stock up and make sure I'm taking advantage of the benefits that Rite Aid has to stay healthy, whether it's their over-the-counter medications, such as being able to provide you with, your nasal decongestants and your cough drops and your throat coats and whatever else you need from Rite Aid just to stay and make sure you're feeling good. To also their vaccines. They've got flu shots, COVID-19 shots, different vaccines you can make sure to get. I actually just got my alert on my phone that they were saying, hey, it's time for your flu shots. You want to make sure when it's time for your flu shot, you have all the convenience that you need. With Rite Aid, they have benefits of making sure they can get you those flu shots because the CDC does recommend getting a flu shot every year, especially as our bodies evolve, as the flu continues to evolve as well. You want to stay up to date on the latest flu shots. You also know that, according to the CDC, 75% of flu diagnoses for children are actually decreased from being as life-threatening for kids that have a flu shot. There are benefits to protect not only you, but also your family, especially your little ones. And so, if you are interested in getting a flu shot yourself or any other vaccine for that matter, know that at Rite Aid, you have the ability to just walk in or you can schedule online. Very convenient, very, very easy and straightforward. And we love that because it gets difficult sometimes. And I can agree with this from my own experiences scheduling doctor's appointments and having to wait a few months until you can actually get into the office. Well, with Rite Aid, you could walk in same day, walk out same day, knowing you got that flu shot. So if you are interested in any moment of getting a flu shot, or even again wanting to go in and check out their over-the-counter medications or different products that they have, with Rite Aid, you can get started today online by checking them out. You can walk into your local Rite Aid, or you can check them out online at riteaid.com. Of course, state, age, and health restrictions do apply, but ask your local Rite Aid pharmacist for any details, any questions, any insight that you need around Rite Aid and all of their many health benefits.
All right, this is the PHLY Phillies show brought to you by our friends at Ace Hardware Home Services. And yes, we were just talking about the free agent list, and I think starting next week, now that the World Series is over, the dust is kind of settled on the year. We can start, really deep diving that group. Maybe get creative with some trades, and maybe do work for them and see what we can come up with. But we will definitely deep dive all the free agents, because if you were to move on from a bone, you don't just move on from a bone. You need an answer at third base. So, maybe we start looking at some of those lower level vet types, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll cover all of that and more. We have a long off season.
So long. It's only November.
Baseball's a long season, and then it's a long off season. But such is life. All right, let's get into some bullpen grades today to put a nice bow on the bullpen grades for the year. And then next week we have to grade, Rob Thompson and Dave Dombrowski. And then we'll get into the free agent stuff. But let's start it out. We got 4 to get to today, Renee. I'm going to start with the meat and potatoes, and then we'll work our way down. I want to start with Jeff Hoffman because we were just talking about him. He is a free agent. He's going to get paid. 68 games played this year, 3-3 with a 2.17 ERA, a 2 WAR, which is really great for a bullpen arm. That's 66 and a third innings pitched with 89 strikeouts in those 66 innings, a sub-1 whip, and his first All-Star game of his career. I gave him an A, not an A+, but I don't know how you're not ecstatic about the year Jeff Hoffman gave you. A 2.17 ERA is nasty, nasty stuff. And it's down from his 2.4 the year prior. So, he might have unclicked something or unlocked something in him that this is who he is. If you average those two out, he's like a 2.2, 2.25 ERA guy. And that's tremendous. I looked at his market valuation for what, according to Spot Track, Spot Track, not Sport Track, right? Yeah, Spot Track. His market valuation is $6.2 million on the open market, which actually feels light to me. I would have thought he was more in the $8.5 to $9 million range, but we'll see. Only 16 earned runs in those 66 innings, 89 Ks. That's filthy. 12.1 Ks per 9. Jeff Hoffman gets an A. It could have been an A+ if maybe the postseason went differently, but a tremendous year for the first-time All-Star.
Okay, Professor Fluff, I see you. I hear you. I agree with some of your points too.
He was tremendous this year. Where are you going?
All right, so it was great to see that Jeff was able to play about 14 more games. He improved, as you mentioned, in a number of areas. We saw as an All-Star this steps that he took to continue to solidify it was not a fluke last season. I think that was one of the biggest things for me that I was looking for.
Yeah.
Was last season just, a fluke, or is this really who he is? And Jeff Hoffman showed us this is really who he is. This is really how he can pitch. And I thought he was good this year. As you highlighted the stats, his ERA dropped from 2.41 last regular season to a 2.17. His whip was a 0.92 last season, a 0.96 this season. Again, pitched more games, more innings. So from 52 innings to 66 innings. He was able to take steps 3.6 Ks per walk last season to 5.6 this season. He did take a number of steps. Of course, And unfortunately, though, did have that postseason hiccup, and you can't ignore that. But I think for him having gone in the postseason, and you have in that total of those 4 games, you have a 40 ERA, like 4050. Remarkable in a bad way. Of course, gave up a total of 6 runs on 3 hits with 1K and 1 1/3 innings pitched and 2 walks. He struggled. He struggled tremendously in the postseason. We all saw it happen. I'm not saying anything that's new, unfortunately. Still triggered by it. I absolutely told you from the beginning, I'm dropping everybody's grade because of the postseason, and everybody drops points because of the second half blunders. And Jeff Hoffman is one of the top of that list of dropping points. At most, I can give him A minus, and that's not that mean. A minus, possibly a B plus, because I think that Jeff Hoffman showed us that he really is that guy in the regular season. But now you have me wondering, Jeff, are you ready for the big stage? Like that's so I now feel comfortable with him as a regular season high leverage reliever. But as we know, and as we saw with Carlos Estevez, and as we saw the opposite of a Tanner Scott, and you look around bullpen arms around the postseason, you need those bullpen arms that can handle the big pressure moments. And so I now do have a slight question mark. I thought Jeff Hoffman was great last season in the postseason. Last season he had just 2 earned runs he gave up in the postseason, and the 8 games that he played in, he pitched for 7 innings, was much more steady. This season was rattled a little bit more. I don't know if it was the pressure of having a good regular season and trying to maintain that in the postseason versus just going out and playing carefree, thinking, he talks about being in his box, being in the moment is one of the biggest things that he changed from last season into the season. And I wonder if he forgot that come NLDS time of just to be in the moment, be present, and focus on what you can control. So now I need to see a little bit more consistently from him in the postseason. So I'm going to go A minus, like a 90. Solid year, great year in terms of regular season progress, but the postseason, as a high leverage guy that we have as one of the best bullpen arms, it is on you come NLDS to make sure you're not a part of the 5 runs given up in an inning that him and Strom put together. So A minus, but I'm
You want to give a B.
I want to give a B, to be honest. I really want to give him a B plus. I'm trying to convince myself to be lighter. But he was one of the biggest reasons why the Phillies, in addition to their offense stinking and not showing up. Yeah.
All right.
JP. Maybe it's an 89. I don't know.
JP's hanging back there with his sweet Kelly Green Eagles cap. I like that one a lot.
Thank you, sir. Happy Kelly Green to everyone.
Kelly
Green to everyone.
Yeah. JP, what do you got for Jeff? Cousin Jeff, as Rich likes to call him.
I'm leaning more towards Renee. I'm going A minus with this one. Great regular season, right? Like he was fantastic, but it's hard to kind of look past what happened in the playoffs. And it was a group effort in the failure, losing to the Mets, but he's obviously one of those guys. I mean, Renee brought it up to 6 runs, kind of stick with me. And honestly, guys, looking forward, like we know, especially in the Nebraska area, like there's arms that look good, but we run through them. Like I look at the Andrew Bellattis of the world, Jose Alvarado's right now. Jeff Hoffman. Now, obviously, his innings increased, pitches increased. He got a larger role here in 2024. So, with that being said, is he ready for the workload here going into 2025? That's going to be my big question mark for Mr. Hoffman, if he's back, of course.
Yeah, I think he's the guy they're going to want to try and keep, and it's going to be interesting what he gets on the open market for sure. All right, next up. So that was the best of this grouping we're getting into today. I'll let you choose here. Do you want to go Seranthony, Jose, or Tanner Banks, Mr. Cake Eater?
Let's knock out Banks quickly.
All right, Tanner Banks. I am going. Well, let's go through the graphic first while JP flashes it. Tanner Banks, 22 games played this year, 0-1. That's not a pitcher's number. Who cares? A 3.7 ERA, 0.1 WAR, 24 1/3 innings pitched, 23 strikeouts, a 1.315 WHIP. He was acquired from the Chicago White Sox on July 30th. I'm giving him a B. Part of that is the expectations I had for him were very minimal to non-existent. The 3.7 ERA is okay-ish. Certainly not like good, but you can kind of live with that for a lower leverage kind of lefty specialist. became somewhat reliable in those low leverage lefty needed spots. That whip you want to see drop down at least into the 1-2s. Ks per 9 was lower than he has been having in his career. 10 earned runs in those 24 and a third innings. He's a piece you kind of feel okay about going forward. If you can upgrade it for cheap, if he's back here, it's fine. Like you feel fine about Tanner Banks. I don't think he's ever going to become a back end high leverage guy for you. So I kind of graded him through that prism. So I gave him a B. Like it was just, maybe I could be talking to a C plus, but I feel like, he's in that 82 to 85 range, maybe 80 to 85 range, something like that. So I think he was solid. No ill will about Tanner Banks' performance with the Phils.
Solid as a rock.
Yeah.
I like that grade, actually. I do think the only thing that does not sit really well with me for Tanner Banks is the fact that I wanted Tanner Scott. But it's okay. I've moved on
Wrong
from
Tanner.
that. Everything's fine. We got the wrong reliever. We got the wrong Tanner. It's fine. Everything's fine. This is fine. But I think for him, as you mentioned, Jamie, being that, Eating's inner middle leverage guy, was never brought in to be the high leverage arm with expectations of closing out games or getting you saves. I thought he was exactly what you needed from him. The Phillies needed to upgrade in an area of, as he moved off from Dominguez and Soto, to just bring in a couple bullpen arms that can be consistent and be steady. And I thought Tanner Banks, I almost called him Tanner Scott again. I thought Tanner Banks was that. So I actually am going to agree with you. I think he was a B. He wasn't flashy, but he was consistent. He was steady. He was good. You look at his performances, you mentioned his Ks per walk, everything was right on par with his career numbers. And also in the postseason, was not one of the guys that killed you. Did give up a run in the postseason, so technically he did have a 9 ERA, not technically, statistically he did. But I don't look at him as the guy that's cost you games. He was someone I actually kind of forgot about at times, and I think that's sometimes okay. Like you blend it in. I used to call those players blenders. Like you just blend in. You're doing your job. You're not hurting us. You're not helping us. You're just there. And I think he was B for being a blender.
Okay, JP, we're both kind of lockstep there with the B. How do you view it?
Clean sweep. I'm gonna give him a B as well. It's one of those guys I definitely want to see more of, and obviously we can use some lefties in the bullpen there. He was solid. I liked some of the stuff we saw. I just want to see some more from him going in 2025. Give me a B.
Wow.
All right, B it is
Blanche.
across the board. Yeah.
Blanche Devereaux even says a B, that he was solid in his role, which is
I guess everybody agrees with the B. All right,
Blanche
good job,
is
Tanner.
definitely right.
All right, next up, let's get to Jose. Actually, let's save Jose for last. Let's do Seranthony now. Seranthony Dominguez. I had such high hopes for you at points in your career. 63 games played in 2024, 3-4 on the year, 4.45 ERA, a .1 WAR, 58 and 2/3 innings pitched with 68 strikeouts, pretty nice. A 1.244 WHIP, and he was traded to the Baltimore Orioles on July 26th. I'm giving him a D+. I had so much hope and optimism for Seranthony. He had been here for so long. Obviously, those strikeout numbers show you he's got stuff. He was never able to really put it all together for super extended periods of time. Would have a month, of play where you're like, oh man, this guy's our back end closer. Dealt with Tommy John and a visa issue during COVID, lost some time, took forever to come back. Just not good enough this year. 36 innings pitched, 32 hits allowed, 19 earned runs in his time with the Phillies, 6 home runs allowed. He allowed 6 as a Baltimore Oriole. So I guess comparatively to how we finished the year, you'll take the 6 home runs in 36 innings, 1.22 WHIP, 10 Ks per 9, 4.75 ERA during his time with the Phillies. It was horrible. D+, not a complete F, but yeah, see you later.
Yeah, it's crazy because going to the Orioles, all the Baltimore Orioles fans that I know were like, what are we going to get from him? And I was like, good luck. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster. You never know what you're going to get, actually. I can't even give you a straight answer. Sometimes he'll look really good. Sometimes he'll look really bad. And he actually was the better of the two between him and Soto that actually pitched for them, which is wild. But anyways, in terms of his Phillies tenure, I do agree with you. It was just, for me as a bullpen arm, you just have to be consistent. We need to know what we're going to get from you, because now we're trusting we can use you in situations. It's a situational, tactical decision of who you're calling out of the pen. And if you are Dr. Jekyll and Hyde and we have no idea which side we're going to get that day, not good at all, at all. And it's hard to find a spot to use you, because sometimes you can be, and with the expectations we had for him, you can be that closer type, high leverage guy, and sometimes you can't be used at all. So looking at his 38 games with the Phillies this season and comparing it to previous seasons, actually got worse. So like you look at his time in 2023, he had a 3.78 ERA compared to a 4.75 ERA with the Phillies in a much smaller sample size. A 1.40 WHIP last season with a 1.22 WHIP this season. Pitched 36 innings, as you mentioned, which was 14 less than and 14 shy of his total in 2023, and was worse and honestly gave up. So with 14, this is always the awful number. 50 innings pitched last season for the entire year of 2023. You pitched 14 less this year and had just as many runs and hits that you gave up. So just not good. I'm going to give him a D-, which is D- for this is why you were out the door, because you can't give up as many hits, runs, blowing games the way that you did in a full season last year in a sample size up until the trade deadline. It's just inexcusable. You actually got worse with each season. His ERA actually got higher, and he actually got his numbers were not good and were progressively getting worse, which I'm glad the Phillies actually did make a smart decision to move on from him. But he does still get a D- for his time here, because we didn't forget. But now we're done. Thank goodness.
All right, JP, what do you got? Seranthony.
I'm going to go with the D. I feel so bad for him because, dude, I had some high hopes for him. I think we all kind of did. We all saw his progression. It just now kind of feels like he's cooked. And as now he goes down to Baltimore, thank you for your time here in Philadelphia, but I'm giving him a D, man. It's disappointing.
Yeah, it's luckily kind of over. I had such high hopes for Seranthony at times, and it just never really panned out. All right, we'll finish up with Jose Alvarado coming up next. But Renee, we got some business to take care of.
I was gonna say the same thing. You read my mind. Let's take care of some business, guys. The reality is, when you are dropping the ball and struggling, you need to go somewhere where you can fix things. And we may not have a fix for some of these players, but we have a fix for your home. And that's with our friends over at Ace Hardware Home Services, where you too can make sure to take care of any leaks, any errors, any mistakes, anything going wrong with your house. So with Ace Hardware Home Services, they are the place with the helpful hardware folks that provide you with all the support that you need. If you've got a leaky pipe, if you've got an air conditioning issue, cooling issue, heating issue, electrical, whatever may be going on, with Ace Hardware Home Services, they bring you a very knowledgeable, experienced staff that can help provide you all the insight and support you need to keep your house moving along problem-free. And it's your home. You want to be comfortable there. You want to make sure that every time you wake up or walk in the door, you're going to be able to have that, I'm home, versus you walk into the door and it's like, oh, another problem, another thing that needs fixing, or another thing that did not get fixed properly. Because with Ace Hardware Home Services, they're going to provide you with free estimates on equipment installation to help you get the right equipment, the right replacements, because they have trusted advisors that give you options that are best suited for your home and your budget. They also provide emergency services. So if you ever at any point have a emergency break in your home that's you're dealing with, don't worry about it. You can always reach out to Ace Hardware Home Services. So they provide you with the service you can trust, satisfaction guaranteed, and they really pride themselves on making it right no matter what is going on. So with their local team that serves our community and is dedicated to keeping our neighbors comfortable as well as you in your home, you can visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project: residential maintenance, installation, home repair services, plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical, whatever it is. You can always trust the helpful hardware folks. And again, visit them online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project today.
Well, they say first impressions matter, and what first impression matters more than your lovemaking game? Am I right, guys? And that's why Blue Chew is there for you. Blue Chew tablets are great. And Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. And guess what? Your partner is going to love it as well. The process is simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And Blue Chew tablets are made right here in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, it's all done online. So you don't have to go to a doctor's office, don't have to have that awkward conversation, and you don't have to wait in the line for the pharmacy. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead and be ready whenever that opportunity arises. Wink, wink, and it's going to rise, fellas. And does it work? Do you think you need to try it? Well, try that month for free and see. You're going to love it. Your partner's going to love it, and you could be missing out on the best sex of your life. With Blue Chew, men everywhere excited to see the postman because that means your package has arrived. Package arrived. You good times. And there's nothing sexier than confidence, they say. And Blue Chew can help give you the confidence where it counts. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Pay just $5 for shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. I can talk.
Jamie, Jim Salisbury's here now, so if you guys want.
Yeah. Hi, Renee.
You started off so mild, and I actually was behind the scenes thinking like, wow, Jamie's doing this so much more reserved and conservative today. And then you started going very left, very fast, and you took advantage of the opportunity to say sex at work.
And packages.
I'm proud of you, I think.
And a rising.
You love talking,
rising.
Yeah, you love the emphasis of a rising and packages and
Yeah.
Man,
Ralph Furley out there said he loves Blue Chew. Hell yeah. I bet your partner does too. All right. We got another grade to get to, and then we got some things to wrap up before the weekend here. The final grade on the bullpen system here is Jose Alvarado. Jose Alvarado, 66 games played in the year, which is actually a little bit more than I thought with his, trip back home, and he missed a little bit of time there. But 66 games played, 2-5 on the year, a 4.09 ERA, a 0.3 WAR, 61 2/3 innings, 63 strikeouts in those 61 innings, a 1.249, and increased his ERA from the 2 years previous. He's kind of going in the wrong direction a little bit. I'm giving him a C-, a north of 4. I could probably be talked into a D+ in all honesty, because, you kind of counted on him heading into the season as your guy. I like Jose. His stuff can be nasty. A north of 4 ERA is not going to cut it. 28 earned runs, a 1.1249 whip, which is good. Those earned runs is okay. You'd like that to be lower, obviously. His K rate, as JP pointed out on the graphic, is dipping. He went from 13.2 Ks per 9 last year to just 9 Ks per 9 this year. His walk stayed fairly similar. C- for Jose Alvarado. I was so hopeful for him.
Wow. Okay.
You think a C- is too easy?
I don't know. We'll see.
Larry's Backyard Barbecue gives him a C.
My wow could be disagreeing with you. You don't know. Here's the thing about Jose Alvarado. With those 66 games that he played and the total of 61 innings he pitched, that is the highest number he's eclipsed in his time with the Phillies. That's also the second highest of his career. The last time he pitched 70 games and 64 innings, which is the only time he's pitched more than 2024, was in 2018. He was in some uncharted territory. And as you mentioned, that was even with him having the leave of absence with his family. So Jose Alvarado did get to a much bigger spot in terms of production of how many innings you could count on him for. And I do think that is why we saw Jose Alvarado struggle so much. I mean, this is the most hits he's ever given up in his career this season with the 49. It's the most it's tied for the most runs. 2021 was the last time he gave up 30 runs. It's in terms of saves, 13 saves was actually the highest for him. He did have more innings he was out there. You talked about the Ks per walk. You talked about the Ks per nine, excuse me. That 1.25 whip is pretty on brand, I think, with actually where he's been in the past. But we had more innings out of Jose, and I think that actually is a big factor as to why he was not ready. I mean, the last time he was even around that 4.09 ERA of this season was his first season with the Phillies. He had a 4.20 ERA his first season with the Phillies. He had a 4.09 this season. He was really good last season with that 1.74 ERA. And that is why it is so difficult to see him regress tremendously in 2024 because you had such high expectations for him. Imagine, we knew Orion was going to be a question mark with a full major league season. We had expectations for Matt Strom and Jeff Hoffman showing that they really were that guy. This is pre-Carlos Estevez. Jose Alvarado was the man we were relying on in a high leverage situation, and we couldn't count on him. So did he pitch more innings? Yes, great. But I'd rather have the quality than the quantity. And I'd rather him be back to being a let's just go back to being under 3. Under 2 again would be great. But to have such a poor season, and this is more Tampa Bay Jose that we're seeing. Like he was in those days, back in that time, he was in those high 4.6 ERAs. We don't need that Jose anymore. So I am actually going to give him a D+. Because I do agree with you, Jamie. I think that he also just had so much more expectation. And there are specific guys you can point to that if we had gotten a better regular, and he didn't even pitch in the postseason, but if we had 2023 Jose Alvarado in the second half of the season, if we had 2023 Jose Alvarado in the NLDS, you don't know what things could have been different. We don't know. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. We have no idea because we never got to see that from him consistently in the season. And as the season went on, he also struggled and continued to get worse. So I'm also going to be along with you and give him a D+.
All right.
JP, what do you got?
This one's tough, man. He's probably the most complex bullpen piece that we have here. And I feel like a lot of the issues here in 2024 was just all mental. I mean, we talked about the situation that he had with his family, but just overall, I just feel like he was just mostly in his head. Like, we know he's got the stuff. Like, he's got that gas. But one thing I do worry about, like we talked about earlier with Jeff Hoffman, has his arm been used up a lot? I mean, I think his innings pitched were like up by like 20 from 23 to 24. Like everything got increased. So obviously we're using him a lot more. And so that's what I do worry about. In the end, I'm kind of along the lines with you guys. I give him a D. It's super disappointing because you do know what the potential is. He just was not there. And so that's why we're all kind of in the same boat. And I give him a D.
Yeah, that was 20 more innings in 2024 compared to 23. 10 more than 2022 when he had 51 innings pitched. So his numbers are definitely getting higher. And they need to maybe less is more possibly with Jose Alvarado.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But that's the nice bow on the bullpen this year. It's a shame because regular season and Jose Alvarado started kind of finishing strong there again after floundering in a little bit, but it wasn't enough to get in the trust tree of Rob. The bullpen was, for the most part, great. And then the playoffs happened, and that sucked. So Todd Zalecki does a great job covering the Phillies for MLB.com. Renee, he put out in his newsletter the other day the timeline of the offseason. And let's just talk about this so everybody knows what to be on the lookout for and when to be on the lookout for it. So here's what the offseason's timeline is kind of looking like. So the first day after the World Series, yesterday, eligible players became free agents. That starts a 5-day, quote unquote, quiet period in which free agents may negotiate only with their own team. Teams can also begin to make trades with other clubs. The fourth day after the World Series, November 3rd, is the last date to request waivers on draft-excluded players until next spring. All right, so nothing too exciting there yet. And then, Renee, Monday, the fifth day after the World Series, the deadline for teams and players to make decisions on contract options, the deadline for clubs to reinstate all players from the 60-day IL, and the deadline for clubs to tender qualifying offers. Free agents and teams are free to sign with any club beginning at 5 p.m. Monday. And minor league players become free agents at 5 p.m. as well, if applicable. So Monday is a big day in the free agent world.
It is. It is. It also is the start of the GM meetings in San Antonio, Texas. So this is the time that we now are actively watching day by day to see as more and more people, like when you start seeing the qualifying offers as we start getting to that point, and free agency, and there's the list of current free agents, and there's some good names on that list. It's going to be interesting to see who's ready to move on and what teams are thinking. I'm excited. I think this offseason, I'm a little bit actually more excited than last year, because I think last year I expected the Phillies to be more aggressive than a little bit more aggressive than they were, to be honest. And I think they were able to, with the NLCS, kind of justify not making some moves and going around the edges. And I think this season it has to be, and it should be, a much more aggressive time period. So day 5, November 5th, is when we start to really get to who's available, who's making those tough decisions on their contract options, which clubs are, as you mentioned, reinstating players, who's someone to look at, who's someone that's possibly available. And so it only gets juicier from there as we get into the lovely month of November.
Yeah,
But
hopefully Monday from the
time.
GM meetings at the Riverwalk in San Antonio, we start getting some rumors out there and whatever. And then a couple other dates throughout the offseason here. November 22nd is tender deadline day. But then when it really heats up is December 9th through the 11th. And that's when the winter meetings are taking place in Dallas, including the MLB draft lottery and the Rule 5 draft on the 11th. But as we know, the winter meetings, that's where it really picks up. That's where the rumors start flying. And, that's probably when the big name guys shortly after that will start to trickle out and onto teams. So it should be interesting.
This is a very intense time, and it's crazy. Because the tender deadline always makes you think of chicken tenders, and that's very unserious.
Chicken
It literally
tenders.
makes you think of like, this is the deadline for chicken tenders. But it's not that. It's a lot to digest, a lot of chaos, a lot of excitement. And by December 9th to 11th, we should hopefully have some good hot stove discussions and rumors. And I know in the chat, you guys are already sharing some of the options of guys that you're wanting, or players are looking at. Maybe last year, I know Mo Parker said you wanted like a Cody Bellinger last season. Steven Garrison's mentioned you would like to get, if not Soto, Bellinger. This is the time to start thinking, like, it's like the Christmas. You remember back in the day as a kid when you'd have the Christmas magazines and stuff, and you would go through and circle and highlight everything you wanted, and you'd highlight pretty much every toy possible, and you might get 2 of them. This is that time. Go through, highlight everybody that you want. We're only going to get 1 of them, but it's fine. We're going to shop, and window shop some more until we hopefully get some good options.
I wish Kenny Powers was available. Larry's Backyard Barbecue. Steve Garrison said sign Bregman. Look, Bregman's a great player. The question is, do you want to bring in another guy in his early 30s that's maybe a little bit of a decline over a young guy at the corner in Bohm? We'll see. I prefer to just have 25-year-old great baseball players with the first name Juan. That would be my number 1 choice. Okay, and then
we said that about Tanner Scott. We did get a Tanner.
Yeah, we did get a Tanner.
Banks, but we got to be.
The international signing period is December 15th, and then January 10th is arbitration. So Alec Bohm and a couple others will be going back and forth with the arbiters there to get their money, and then the international signing period. The start of the new international signing period picks up January 15th. Okay. One little thing I read about the World Series here today, Renee, this is courtesy of Joel Sherman up in New York. How much would this suck? You lose in the World Series in epic fashion. Aaron Boone's probably going to get fired. Now you have to worry about Juan Soto leaving your team. And then this piece comes out today. Basically just kind of shiitake mushrooming all over the Yankees defense. Here's the quote from Joel Sherman. They were thrilled at how short Yankee leads were at first base to potentially be less of a threat on pivot at second, where Gavin Lux does not excel. They said their metrics had the Yankees as the worst positioned outfield. They were amazed at how many times relay throws came skittering through the infield with no one taking charge, and how often Jazz Chisholm Jr., for example, was out of place or just standing still when a play was in action. Ouch. That sucks to read after losing a World Series, that basically your guys were absent-minded, horribly positioned, and just weren't really focusing. Like Jazz Chisholm Jr., that's tough.
Well, they also moved him to third base, and
He's not really a third baseman.
He's not a third baseman.
Barely
And
a good outfielder.
I think that for the Yankees, they got exposed because there were things they were getting away with in the regular season that when you're now in a best of 7 series, you have to key in on. And they were a lot of like home run or bust. It was Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, it was all the offense. And let's be honest, how much we didn't talk about the Yankees nearly as much, obviously, but they're not a team that you were thinking of. It was all their defense. No, they're slow in the base running. Their defense is piecemeal. You've got great pitching in Garrett Cole and company, and you've got guys that can, smash balls out of the ballpark. That's why the Yankees were so good. And so for the Yankees, they got, again, the blinders are off. You're on the big stage. You're getting exposed. And we saw that with that 5-run lead that they blew. That's defense. Error. From Aaron Judge to Volpe to Garrett Cole to everyone. You're blowing the lead in game 5 in a must-win game. You don't have it. You don't have that. You never took time to actually develop on the defensive side. So, yeah, I think there's going to be some more. This is just the beginning of like the explosion. It's like the trickle-down effect. The dominoes are falling, and it's slowly knocking things down, I think, for the Yankees, that you might have this flashy roster. The second, you look for them and the Dodgers, the 2 highest paid rosters and clubs, but does it matter if you're not teaching fielding, if you have guys out of position, if you're frozen, like you said, like a deer in the headlights at times, and just caught standing ball watching. So I wouldn't be surprised if, in addition to some changes across manager and coaching, that we're gonna get some more like.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that Juan Soto doesn't. He deserves better.
He deserves better. It's exactly what I'm saying.
And that he should come here. I think
he needs to be on a team that prides themselves on their fielding, their offense, some small ball, a great city, a community that embraces you, a community that's not going to be out there fighting right fielders and some of the best baseball players in the world. We're not going to be fighting them for the ball.
Yeah.
No, that's beneath him.
Yeah, it feels like he's better than the scumbags of the Bronx.
I think so.
Yeah, I think you should just come here, Juan. We'll be very nice to you. All right, 2 little notes here as we get out of here. Jordan Montgomery exercises his player option with the Diamondbacks. Yeah, no kidding, because you're not going to get that on the open market. That's kind of a duh moment. And somebody I got to know throughout the years of working with NBC, I might be in the minority when it comes to Bob Costas on baseball, but I like Bob as a person. Him and his wife were always very nice to me. And I always, anytime I heard Bob on baseball, it's like Joe Buck on football. It just feels like a big game. So he is officially retired from calling baseball games. What a career he had. Awesome.
Yeah. Happy for him that he had such a, incredible career, a great run. How many
4 decades of calling baseball.
I was going to say what the exact number was, but yeah, decades and decades that there are certain voices that you naturally hear, and it automatically triggers, past experiences, memories as a kid, all that. So excited for him and his family that now they get to enjoy life after broadcasting and see what's next in retirement. But he's been such a fixture. It's been great to see.
Yeah, so that is going to do it for us here on the PHLY Phillies podcast, brought to you by Ace Hardware Home Services. Visit them online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. Real quick, as we're getting out of here, and thank you to all the diehards. JP, bring yourself in. Let's get our Eagles predictions.
I love it.
I think the Birds win handedly this weekend. I'm going to go 34-20.
Wow.
Birds, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's going to be 4
What do you
in a
got?
row. 4 in a row for the Eagles. Continue this winning, continue showing that they're getting better game by game. Beat up on Dougie P. I'm going to go I'm definitely going to go Eagles win, but I think it's going to be 7 to I don't want to just sound like your score, but I'm going to go a little bit bigger. Let's score some more. Yeah. 30. I like 34-7. So Slim.
Wow.
What the heck, guys? Well, first off, I just
know.
want to say this. I already put out my score prediction with
Oh,
John
did you?
this morning,
Okay.
and I did say 34-7 as well.
No, you did not.
Really?
I did say 34-7.
I promise you I did not. I mean, no offense to you guys early this morning, but I was not on that show.
I feel good about it. Yeah, I feel good about this one. I mean, the Jags, they don't have any weapons. The defense is not great. Yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of injuries. Doug P's kind of just floating down there. He's, getting close to the end or down, it feels like. It's going to suck. It's going to suck kind of, run up the score on Doug Peterson Jags. But yeah, I got 34-7, guys.
All right. Let's go Bears.
Yeah,
Everybody have a great weekend. Of course, we got you covered on Eagles game day 4:05 this weekend. Myself and Fran Duffy and Bo Wolf and Zach Berman checking in. And then Vinny Curry joins us on the post game. So make sure you're checking us out on Sunday. Have a great weekend, everyone. And we will be back on Monday at 11 a.m. to pick up right where we left off. See you then.
We all silly like the mayor.